Good evening. It's called order the Concord Township Board of Trustee meeting for February 7th, 2021. Would you please...
17th.
17th? Right.
I think you said 7.
Oh, 17th. And would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mrs. Dawson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Lucci?
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer?
Present.
Mr. McIntosh?
Present. Approval of the minutes. We had two meetings last 2 weeks ago on the 3rd, a special meeting and the regular trustee meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the February 3rd, 2021 special meeting and also the February 3rd, 2021 regular trustee meeting.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Elected officials report. Fiscal Officer Amy Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Second meeting of the month. It's time for some financial facts. Tonight I'm going to discuss the CARES Act grants from 2020 and how we spent the money. We received a total of $908,879.21 in grant money plus interest, which at the time we were told we had to spend it prior to December 30th, 2020. We did not find out until December 29th, 2020, that the deadline was extended until the end of 2021. The grant was also very specific on what you could and what you could not spend the money on. These are the things we spent money on. We subgranted $3,000 at the request of the Lake County Commissioners to the Fair Housing Authority for their hotline. Spent $256,041.32 was spent on a new ambulance with factory installed disinfection systems, and the two older ambulances were retrofitted with other disinfection systems. The grant specifically stated public safety positions such as police officers, sheriffs, firefighters, and EMS workers' salaries could be reimbursed. We spent $375,195.55 for reimbursement from the sheriff's contract from the Safety Services Fund, which also pays for firefighter salaries. The zoning department received a new SUV to maintain social distancing at a cost of $26,998.66. This will eventually replace a 12-year-old vehicle we also currently maintain. The service department received $222,443.68 for new trucks to help social distance and disinfect, and equipment that will help our workers maintain a safe environment. Finally, our administration, including the community center, received touchless plumbing equipment. Because the grant was so specific, we chose items that were easier to meet the grant requirements. Expenses that we also paid for but did not come out of the grant were as follows: fire department overtime salaries and supplies due to COVID, other reimbursement of staff salaries due to COVID policies and procedures, specific PPE and disinfecting equipment and supplies, technology upgrades to allow employees to work from home, upgrading furnace filters to HEPA filters, and WebEx upgraded annual subscription. In other words, we spent more than $908,879 in COVID-related expenses in 2020. So those were the only things that we applied toward the grant, but we had way more than $908,000. The other items, specifically the salaries, due to HIPAA regulations and things like that, they're much harder to track and to prove that, that met specific grant requirements. So
COVID cost us more than what CARES?
Absolutely. Yep. When we get a grant, we look at what's the criteria and how we can spend that so that our residents get the benefit of the full amount of the grant. That doesn't mean we're not going to have extra expenses related to that. But one of the main things, besides reimbursement for the salaries, was you couldn't have already appropriated for that. Well, we appropriate naturally for upgrades to equipment and things like that. So, was it in the budget? Was it not in the budget? That type of thing. You have to be really clear when you're addressing a grant. Okay. If anybody has any questions related to either the CARES Act or the COVID money, or if you have a financial fact you would like addressed, please, email me that question and I'll try and include it on my report. Or you can feel free and call my office at 354-7516. But That's all, that's what I have at this point.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Trustees report, Mrs. Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, we had our appropriations workshop, and I think it went very well. Thank you, Mrs. Dawson, for your fiscal expertise and your knowledge of Concord to help us work through that process.
Thank you.
I think we all worked together very well, asked each other the right questions to inform our decisions. We all agree, I think there's a challenge in balancing the needs and priorities of our township, but our intentions are definitely in line with what's in the best interest of our residents. I did speak with someone again about Lucky's. They're still concerned that it's not coming, didn't see any action. I let them know it's still planning to hopefully arrive late spring when the county is finished with the Cryle Road project. I've been getting a few questions about the snow plowing and salting practices. Few comments. I think it's very challenging, you know, when we get this heavy snowfall and it's during traffic periods and there's many roads to kind of keep up with some of the heavy road conditions that we experience. But we did get some nice compliments too. Personally, I would not want that job. I think they're heroes and I appreciate all they do to keep our roads as safe as possible. So thank you very much. And at last, I did speak with a resident about some property maintenance issues. A resident was concerned about a neighboring property with maybe potential zoning violations. We had a great conversation. I told her we definitely understand the situation and hope to move forward with some more feedback on that. With that, enjoy the rest of your February. Hearing more snow and cold on the way, and happy to take any questions anytime. Stay safe and have a great rest of the month. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Lucci. Mr. Dondorf.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. I'd like to start out by thanking our service department. I mean, with the winter weather that we've had recently, they've really stepped up and have done a phenomenal job, I believe, out there. I travel the roads daily in and out of Concord, and you know, I see them out constantly, and they've really stepped up and have done a phenomenal job. So thank you. I'm very excited about our new technology tonight with Facebook Live to sort of get out and connect with more residents for our trustee meetings and keep them informed on what's going on. So I'm excited about that. New platform, virtual platform for us. I did get a call from a resident that had some, she wanted to confirm whether or not the information she had received about the town hall project moving forward. She had heard that it was moving forward. There's been decisions made to move that project forward, and I assured her that the strategic planning meeting that we recently held was designed to sort of bring the current board up to speed on plans that have been conducted or developed in the past years prior to this board taking office, and that at this time that there's been no decisions made at this point to move that project forward as of this date. So I just clarified that for her. I did finish up on attending all the OTA classes that were done virtually, and those were very informative. I believe the rest of the board and staff also, you know, was online with watching those. So very good information on some key classes that really affect Concord as far as, you know, the JED and TIF funding and things of that nature. I learned a lot, so that was very informative. With that, I just would like to remind Concord Township residents to do their best to patronize our local businesses. The curfews have been lifted, so any way you can sort of patronize our local businesses or do carry out would be greatly appreciated, and we hope everyone is staying healthy and well. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I obviously we had the appropriations meeting, and that was, as Amy said, it was great. And OTA was awesome. I did get to wrap that up. I think we were actually, ironically, it was our last meeting in the middle of OTA, which ordinarily we wouldn't be able to do a trustee meeting in the middle of OTA, but did get to finish up. And the nice part about it being virtual, I guess, is that you could miss a session and make it up. So get a chance to see this great stuff, zoning, economic development, a lot of good information. It's a really valuable resource. I also took some questions about Lucky's. When's it coming? Haven't seen anything. What's going on? Very much assured people they're on track to do that. I'm did also get some correspondence about zoning complaints, and I think that's something that we've talked about. If we go back into our strategic planning session from last month, we had a lot of conversation about features in the zoning code that we can look at. So that's something that this board is very much aware of. Did have an opportunity to meet with the administrator and chief and deputy chief to talk about some stuff with regard to the fire station. So we're going to be getting to that later today. So later this evening. So we'll kind of hold that conversation. And our guys are doing a great job clearing those roads. It's funny, you sit in your house and my ear picks it up a lot more than it used to, and I think about, I'm just driving by, I just got it off today. But they do a great job, and very proud of them. So with that, we will move on to department reports and administrator roles.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh, members of the board, Mrs. Dawson, members of the audience, both on WebEx, YouTube, and Facebook Live now. Welcome. On tonight's agenda, item B is a vote to replace the generator at the service department. The current generator is old, it's out of service, and due to the age, the necessary parts are no longer available. So I'll request a favorable vote on item B. On February 5th of 2021, I received and accepted on behalf of the trustees a resignation letter dated February 4th from part-time firefighter Joshua Gibson. That is effective on February 18th of 21. We'd like to thank Joshua for his service, and we wish him well in his future endeavors. I am currently coordinating with the JED administrator. We are having discussions with several new businesses that are coming to the township, which we believe would be great additions to the JED. We've started those discussions. We've got a little bit of follow-up work and a follow-on meeting with each of the two new businesses coming up within the next week to 10 days. They're working on the schedule. So I should have more information for you in the next few weeks on that, but I am encouraged. I've been working with the Port Authority and Team NEO, and we have scheduled some business retention and expansion calls to some of our manufacturing companies. It's an annual check-in just to see how they're doing. Today we conducted a call with Thieves Landis, which was this afternoon, which went very well. And I'm happy to say that they are doing very well and they're happy with Concord Township. Our goal is to reach out to ensure that the needs that are provided by the community are being met. And then we also offer other resources for things like workforce development. If you're having a hard time getting a certain skill set, we can connect you with Ohio Means Jobs, Workforce Development Board, things like that, in order to help the business source the personnel that they need, should they choose to. A conceptual plan for the stormwater issues at Sara Lee and Cali. That's been a long-standing issue. It's been completed. It was sent to us. It was also sent to Lake County Stormwater. The plan's currently under review with the Lake County Stormwater engineers to go over the plan, and I would anticipate that we'll, after plan review, if there's anything that needs to be tweaked, they'll work with the design engineer to tweak the plan, go over any questions that they have, and hopefully we can move forward late spring and try to put that out for bid. That would be a tremendous accomplishment to get that going this year. We've also been working with Lake County Stormwater on a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant application. That is for the Jordan Creek properties along 608. We acquire those through the FEMA mitigation grant, the 5 parcels. This grant is for green stormwater infrastructure enhancements, and the pre-application was submitted yesterday. And as that process moves along, I will continue to update you on where we are with that. And then finally, a few reminders from our recreation department. Don't forget that Concord's Best Snowman Contest ends at the end of the month. And there's plenty of snow out there, so now's the time to build your snowman. You got about 2 weeks. Concord's 31st annual photo contest, which we've gotten quite a number of submissions already. The deadline for entry to that is February 26th. And the Concord Township History Culling Book is still available for sale at the Concord Community Center. And if you have any questions, you can contact the Community Center on those 3 items. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will take questions. I know we don't have any audience present here, so if there's anybody online that would like to speak or has a question for the trustees. All right, hearing none, we'll proceed into old business, of which we have none. Next item on the agenda is new business. Is there anything before we jump into the new business we need to?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I mentioned earlier in my report, I had a conversation with a resident about property maintenance and some potential zoning violations. And, while I understand, the residents' issue, I understand the owner's issue, and I certainly intend to help anybody that we can with any resources, but I also think it's important to uphold the beauty of our township. So I was just sort of curious what your thoughts were sort of on this issue going forward.
I think it's important. I mean, we have certain zoning restrictions or in place, and I think we have an obligation as trustees to sort of follow through on those complaints when they come up from residents. I think what's been sort of maybe missing in the past was some type of enforcement mechanism. You'd maybe reach out or talk to a resident and have some dialogue with them about whatever the issue was, and hope that they would, do their due diligence to correct the problem. But those that don't, I mean, I think there hasn't been that enforcement mechanism or that step taken to sort of make sure that follow through does take place, and that we have like Trustee Lucci said, we have an obligation to ensure that maintain the beauty of the township and make sure that people's property is properly maintained and it's in good condition.
I agree. I mean, I think when I started really digging into when I was campaigning 2 years ago and going door to door, I was surprised being a zoning commission member and knowing the zoning regs the way I did of some of the things that I saw. And so it's something I've been aware that we have, and I think over the last year I would agree, and I've seen more complaints or just heard more about it and seen more of the things that it really stands out to you once you notice that it's there. And I certainly think it's interesting that when we had our strategic planning, and Heather gave her department report as far as enforcing the zoning code, we got a little education on some stuff, but there was a session at the OTA that covered it, and an attorney, I actually missed the beginning of it, but she talked about, actually had been the law firm that took through some of that stuff and talked about the things that they had done. And actually that slideshow showed some pretty nasty stuff, and thank goodness we don't really have that problem in Concord. But I think trying to address that from a standpoint of working with the community, but that cleaning up, and certainly some of the complaints that we've had recently are properties that I've noticed for a long time, and I think it needs attention, and I think it's worthy of the township to make an effort to. And I think the first thing we need to do is probably just reach out and see what we can do to help people get into compliance. I certainly don't want to become a very aggressive enforcement, like, well, okay, you're in trouble now, we want to work with people to do this, but we've got to think about everybody in the township, not just the residents that are being affected by the code, but people that have to drive by it, and the code's in place for a reason.
Right, or if they're a neighbor. I mean, we've all talked about certain complaints that we've received since we've been in office in regards to zoning violations, and they continue. So I think it's important, like you said, to sort of start that dialogue with the resident and do what we can to sort of move them towards getting into compliance, and whether or not we have to have some type of enforcement mechanism that we utilize. I mean, that's something we need to discuss, but I think we have an obligation to the residents to follow up on those complaints.
Ms. Lucci, when you spoke with the resident that made a complaint, how was her response? I mean, what was her tone? How did she take your report?
Well, I think the main thing was, safety is always an issue. So, and of course, if you're living across the street from an area where it's, you have to look at it every day, the resident was very understanding, and look, her life wasn't going to change by looking across the street, but yet, certainly you have to live and be happy where you are, and if it's something is visually not appealing, you kind of want to do something about it. So right. Again, I think safety is a big issue. Maintaining sort of what Concord represents is a big issue for me. So I think it is important that we have these discussions and we move forward in some direction right. to come to some sort of resolution on it.
Well, and I think you hit on something there, safety, and I think recalling what both Ms. Freeman and we learned on the OTA seminar was that enforcing this sometimes means going outside your code, so you're going to rely on other agencies. We may have to work with the fire department as far as violations of the fire code, or the building department as far as health and welfare. Some of it may exceed that, some of these nuisance properties that we have, and that's I use that word not because that's what ORC defines it as. So I think it's something that is worthy of us to start exploring, gently starting to frame it. So
I agree.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll move into new business now. A couple of votes here.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resolution 2021-04 permanent appropriations.
I'll second.
Could I do a little discussion?
Okay,
sure.
Yeah, so
Yes,
I was just going to say any discussion.
Okay, so it is time for our permanent appropriations. They have to be passed prior to April 1st. We were able to get forth all the information today. Did want to let you know I have provided you with an updated copy that I'm asking you. It is approximately $7,000 more than the last copy I provided to you last week before I went out of town. And primarily that's some of the accounts that you really shouldn't go less than what your temporary appropriations were. And the only way I actually know that is to key it into the system. So that's where the majority of these come from. The other thing is, if you look at the road levy specifically, I have operating supplies for $50,000 and operating supplies road salt for $300,000. Normally we flip that. It's too soon to flip that. We're paying for salt right now, and we have an open purchase order. So until we close that out, I can't flip them. So I had to keep with what we had in the temporary appropriations. And also, we have streetlights on the Auburn Road Interconnect. They need to start being paid for out of the TIF because that's what has funded those streetlights. So there's $2,000 there. Does anybody have any questions with the changes highlighted in yellow that I provided?
That's specifically for the streetlights, Amy?
That is only for the 13 streetlights on.
The $2,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about $138,000 to $150,000. Sorry, it's pardon me. It's $138 to $150 per month. It just depends on the time of year. And the general fund was eating that. And
that was my question.
Yeah.
You said it's time for the TIF to pay for. Where was it?
It was, and the TIF paid for the installation of those streetlights.
Okay.
It just, I guess I wasn't realizing what we were paying for that on a regular basis. So yes, we have a motion and you have a second from Carl, and this does require a roll call vote.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Not? Okay. Would you please call the roll, Ms. Dawson?
Yes, Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucci.
Yes.
And Mr. McIntosh.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, just to let you know, these probably will be updated as we get more money in, things like that. And I did want to comment that it does show $8 million in the capital projects fund because that's what the bond's going to be. I have to show that. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to spend all $8 million this year. So, okay.
Okay, moving along, the PO that Administrator Rose mentioned for the Service Department.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Service Department purchase order to Generator Systems LLC for the purchase of a new 60 kW backup generator in the amount of $18,677.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, step increase.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve a step increase to $19.64 per hour for maintenance worker 2, David Weber, effective 2/24/21.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, future meetings and announcements. Actually, before I ask Mrs. Dawson to do that, I do want to clarify how we're going to roll tonight. We do have a special meeting. It's a work session, and we'll get into that when we start that. But when we get done with the future meetings and announcements, we'll close the meeting. There'll be a 5-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene for the work session. So, Mrs. Dawson, would you like to read the future meetings announcements, please?
I'd be delighted, Mr. McIntosh. On February 26th at 9 a.m., be a staff meeting here at Town Hall. On March 2nd at 7 p.m., zoning commission meeting will be held at Town Hall. On March 3rd at 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., trustees' regular office hours will be held in the conference room. And at 7:30 p.m., the trustee meeting at Town Hall.
All right, and with that, I will conclude the 7:30 Board of Trustee meeting. Again, 5-minute recess, and we'll reconvene for our work session.
We'll restart Facebook Live.